Our wedding week continues with Weddings in Style by David Caruso. So he popped the question, she said yes, and now she's wearing the ring. So now what? David Caruso has tips for the newly engaged on the things to do right now that you're about to say, I do. David Caruso is an event planner and designer. He is here with his expert tips on what to do next.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
What is up?
I loved those resolutions.
Did you?
Spot on. I
Really?
loved it.
Okay, and
Very
I'm sure
good.
you tell people.
Set again.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Don't do anything before the guest list, right?
I
that
agree.
is
That
a
is
big
very,
deal.
very important and definitely on our list of top things too.
Okay, good. So how do you tell people that you're engaged? Who's first? I would think parents, number one.
Well, absolutely, of course. If they aren't involved in the engagement, like surprised to be there or to be a part of it, certainly make sure that you call your parents, grandparents, real close family, your siblings, close family, best friends. Call them. Don't rely on text messages, and certainly don't rely on social media.
No.
Come
I
on.
think that would be rude to find out on social media for your immediate family.
Right. Don't get too excited. It's a big moment, but make sure you call the right people first.
And after you announce this great, wonderful news, then the number one thing is what? Pick a date?
So I think pick a date is important. Of course, that's going to be a little bit reliant on what's available.
Yeah.
So also looking at possibilities for venues is very close on the list as well. But picking a date has lots of things to do with who you are. Some people really want a summer
Warm
wedding.
weather.
Some people love winter, fall. It's all about what you like, where you are, and what's important to you and your guests. Are a lot of people coming from out of town? Maybe you don't want a winter wedding then. But think about the date, narrow in on the date for sure, and then certainly start looking into your favorite venues so that you have your top pick for where you're going to have your big day.
All right, so figure out the venue and then your guest list, because the number is important. Can you pick a venue before you know the number?
Well, it depends. You should have a good
idea.
going into it for sure. But sometimes the venue does dictate, kind of making your decision about what size wedding you're going to have and who's going to be on the list. What I will say about the list, yes, it is most important, and make sure that you really narrow down. But don't kind of have an A, a B, and hopefully not a C list. I don't like the different levels of lists,
Oh, okay.
Who is most important and who will be celebrating your big day, and make that list real tight.
Okay, and in making it tight, and I bet you have a great answer to this, what's a question to ask yourself as you're discussing with your future husband and wife? A question to ask yourself as you're going through, should this person be on the list or not?
So the question that I like to stick to is, I think we have the same question. Would I invite this person to my house for dinner and invite them back?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So that's what I like, somebody that you're going to spend more intimate time with. For me too, I know this isn't always possible, but I don't like people you don't know at your wedding. So that is sometimes a challenge, and understandable, of course, but
For
in
distant
general,
relatives or things that seem obligatory.
Exactly.
What do you mean people invite people they don't know?
Well, if it's like friends or distant cousins or people that your fiance has never met, I think it's kind of awkward to introduce people at your wedding to your new
I get
husband or
it.
wife.
Okay.
So that's just, again, there are exceptions based on family situations, but that's what I would say.
Okay.
All right, determine a budget. That's a big deal. And now that you know what your number of people is,
Right.
you can kind of maybe start planning that.
Absolutely. And the budget is key too. And the reason why it's at the top of my list is because going into meetings with vendors and starting to talk about your dream and your vision for your big day, it's good to give people parameters because it helps them build to what's affordable to you. Instead of going in there with no clue, it adds up fast and you quickly can find yourself kind of in a lurk thinking, oh my, I didn't expect it to be this expensive. So have a good idea of what's comfortable for you. And that means at the beginning, find out, who's contributing. Are you paying by yourself, or will parents contribute some, or kind of pool all of your resources and make sure that you go into it knowing what you have.
GoFundMe page.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously. And I know you do, higher end weddings, a little more luxurious too, but you do events and such. What are you seeing people setting for budgets, or what do you hear as a typical kind of budget? Is there even anything typical?
I don't think there's anything too typical, but you will find, I think, it's been a while since I've looked closely, but I think that in general, the average in our state of Wisconsin $25,000. You know, resources online say it's somewhere between like $30,000 and $35,000.
That's what I've heard too.
Is average in our area.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a general. But of course,
a lot of money.
It's a lot of cha-ching.
Yeah.
It is, and the sky's the limit. And weddings are, you know, super popular in terms of personalization and, you know, experience factor.
No, we gave a warning before that you say beware of the internet. So I wonder what you suggest then as it comes to, or it gets to the point of where you go for inspiration.
Right. I think the internet is a fabulous place. I also think it's a dangerous place.
A deep, dark pit.
Yes.
Stay too long.
Exactly. And I think it can be distracting. You know, I think, Tiffany, you mentioned earlier about trusting your vendors.
Yeah.
And this is really key also, because the internet is great for finding inspiration, I agree, but think outside of the wedding world. You know, you can find inspiration anywhere, you know, in a movie, when you're traveling, when you're eating at a restaurant, or I find inspiration from merchandising when I'm shopping around the mall. You know, there's all kinds of ways to find other inspiration. Take pictures on your iPhone. But the internet, I think, is most dangerous because oftentimes I know people see pictures of photo shoots or like over-the-top things that are their dream, but are not really realistic in terms of what's obtainable for usually people's budgets.
Yeah.
The other thing that the internet is kind of scary
You're being very nice about it.
just
You're like, here's the deal. You can't afford what you see online.
That ain't you.
Trust me.
The other thing that's kind of challenging is that oftentimes they give planning checklists and planning timelines and do this then and do this now. And it really scares people.
There's a lot of apps for that are freaking out.
Yes, and I have seen people get freaked out.
Yes.
So again, use your live and in-person relationships with the people you've hired to really guide you through the process instead of relying on an online checklist or process.
And I'm going to add this because there's a time then when it comes to interview wedding planners and designers and other venues, and that's where you come in, is when people want some help planning the perfect wedding. So
Absolutely. I think that's really important. Don't feel alone. Don't make yourself be out there. You know, oftentimes brides think that their grooms are going to be a huge help. And I'm here to tell you, it's a rare exception. But when it happens, it's fabulous. But don't feel alone. Don't feel stranded. Just make sure that you have a good person that you can really trust and have a good time with as your partner throughout the process, to make sure that your style, personality, and dreams really will come to life.
Love that. Great advice, David.
Thank you so much, David. Thanks for our beautiful set.
Yes, we
love it.
love
You did a beautiful job
So
decorating
fun.
it. We love it. Thank you so much.
Awesome.